You trust your gear? Good. But gear can't think. It can't make decisions. And when pressure hits, it won't cover for your lack of preparation.
From the DJr Empowerment Group headquarters, this is the Readiness Report. Your fast, no-nonsense brief on the threats, trends, and tactics that keep you and your family safe. Here's your host, DuBose Jr.
Last week, we talked about the legal consequences behind using force. Now let's talk about another dangerous misunderstanding: the belief that gear equals capability. Because a lot of people own equipment, very few are actually prepared. Readiness cannot be bought. You can go to training, you could go to see this guru, that guru, pay hundreds of dollars. That's what's going to help your readiness. But simply buying an optic, or maybe making upgrades to your gun, or buying this accessory, that accessory, that doesn't help you prepare. Because the piece of equipment you just bought it might as well be a paperweight unless you learn how to use it. So your skills is what's going to be the thing that helps you get ready. Because at some point, you still have to perform. So let's say this: what if the gear may not always be available? Because flashlight batteries die. Optics fail. Trust me, I've been shooting and an optic had flew right off the gun. And now what do you do if you're in a life or death situation and you no longer have that optic? Do you know how to operate without it? Because guns malfunction and gear gets left behind. If you have to put something down and now that gear is left behind, well, are you able to perform without it? The pressure exposes your dependency. What's left when your gear stops working? That's where readiness actually starts getting measured, because your tools only amplify your mindset. How have you been disciplined in practicing? How have you, do you have the awareness? Have you been looking around, or are you oblivious when you're out and about? Are you oblivious to what's going on around you? Are you looking at what might possibly be a dangerous situation? That decision-making is what's going to help you survive. Because when panic sets in, that's when you're going to have to be grounded. Gear buying versus skill building can build false confidence. Equipment can support readiness, it can't manufacture it. So let's talk about some of this equipment, okay? So it's going to be your support system, but people tend to drift toward convenience versus being supported. You know, they always think about, okay, is it easier to carry this versus that? In the size of the gun, okay, this smaller gun is going to be easier to carry than a full size or compact gun. Now, again, that is a choice for you to make, but just know you need to know what those trade-offs are. And we'll talk about trade-offs in a second. So, but you talk about, okay, less weight and minimal inconvenience, but comfort feels good until reality tests it. Those trade-offs we just mentioned, sometimes it might be your preparedness versus your inconvenience. And okay, so for example, when I first started carrying on a full-time basis, carrying my my gun that I chose to carry at that particular time, it felt like a 20-pound weight. I mean, it just, when you put an extra appendage on yourself, you're going to notice it. It was very inconvenient. But I was willing to deal with that short-term inconvenience to be prepared. That's the trade-off. Now, I don't even feel it. Actually, I carry a different gun now that's probably heavier than that one was, but I'm no longer inconvenienced because I'm used to it. I had realistic expectations that I'd be able to protect myself with this gun. Now, again, you have to measure those for yourself, because performance under pressure matters more than convenience. In fact, in my experience, minimalist setups often outperform those intricate setups, you know, those with all of the moving parts, the new holster, the optic, the light, all of that stuff, because under pressure, people default to habits, not accessories. You should be learning the bare basics before you start upgrading all of your equipment. I like to use what's called the simple method. Skill is more powerful than equipment. Simple equipment, your gun, your holster, the ammunition that actually works in your gun. That's the most important thing you could have for this last line of defense. Of course, yes, you can have other things in your arsenal that's going to help you. And I'll tell you what my setup is a little later in this video, but If you're not mastering your fundamentals with consistent repetition, daily dry fire skills, that new holster, that light, that optic means nothing. What are you doing on a daily basis? Are you taking the 5 minutes a day to do your dry fire skills, your grip, your aim, how you move your finger to the trigger? If you can't move your finger to the trigger without actually looking at your finger moving to the trigger, you have a lot of work to do. Developing skills and good habits can make simple tools more effective, but lack of skill makes expensive gear irrelevant. And don't get me wrong, sometimes we have to buy gear to realize that's the wrong gear. So don't get me wrong, I have a closet full of holsters that I had to go through before I found the holster and the holster maker that I liked. I'm not saying that, but when you start buying stuff just because the next person bought it, or this is the new thing that's out, or this is going to make you 1/10 of a second faster on your draw, you might want to think about your decision-making process. Because modification culture can make you broke, but it won't make you more prepared. I can't stress enough, you need to learn performance. The goal is not owning more. The goal is becoming harder to disrupt under pressure. Let's take a quick pause, because this is exactly why training matters. Not flashy gear, not the latest upgrade, training. The ability to think clearly, make sound decisions, and perform under pressure when things don't go according to plan. That's what we focus on inside the DJr Empowerment Academy, building real-world capability through foundational skills, practical application, and consistent training. Because at some point, the equipment stops mattering and you still have to perform. If you're ready to build the skills behind the gear, scan the QR code on the screen or visit the link in the description to learn more. Now let's get back to the report. Relying heavily on your gear can create training gaps. Let's see, a good example of this is red dots versus iron sights. Did you learn how to shoot on a red dot and not train with iron sights? Okay, so let me ask you this. What happens when that battery goes dead? Don't answer. Because if your battery goes dead and you haven't learned how to shoot with iron sights, or if your setup, you have a red dot with standard level iron sights, you can't even see the iron sights. So now you got this expensive red dot, probably cost you $200, $300, $400. And if that goes out, your gun is useless. Gear can't fix your training gaps. It can't fix your poor judgment. It can't fix your lack of awareness. It can't fix your brain when you panic. You have weak fundamentals, then that's what you need to be practicing, because you can't accessorize your way out of bad decisions. You cannot accessorize your way out of bad decisions. So are you ready without the gear, that plate carrier, the optic, the complete loadout? Defensive actions by their nature are reactive, which means that something we didn't expect has already happened. Readiness is not dependent on perfect conditions. So what happens if you can't get to your chosen setup? That kind of pressure reveals what you've built. Real readiness requires decision-making, problem-solving, composure under pressure. These things that are going to maybe save your life or the life of those around you. But let's be clear, gear cannot provide any of those for you. So who are you without the gear? If your readiness disappears without your gear, it was never readiness to begin with. So what do you actually do with this? Because this episode isn't about criticizing gear. It's about making sure your capability isn't dependent on it. Build skill first. Consistency and discipline in the fundamentals, that's what can save your life. Repetition in your dry fire drills. What are you doing in your dry fire drills and how long are you doing them? Are you doing them daily? Skill development and capability, that's what you need to focus on. The gear comes second, because accessories should enhance your skill, not compensate for the lack of them. Stop lying to yourself about ownership. Now, I'm not against gear. I have my share of gear. Many of it lives in the vault and I've forgotten all about it. I kid you not. I found a red dot the other day that I honestly forgot I bought it, and which gun I bought it for. I still don't know. So I'm not against the gear, but just owning the gear is not what I'm going to depend on to save my life. My daily loadout consists of 5 items that I carry. I carry a knife. I carry a pocket flashlight. I carry a tactical pen and a gun and one backup magazine. That's it. I don't complicate it. It's light, it's consistent. I can carry it no matter what I wear. Guys, I don't worry about all that other gear. Now, if we had to bug out and go somewhere, some of the stuff has hit the fan, that's a whole nother subject that we'll talk about in another episode. But for now, let's just talk about what we need today. Owning tools and mastering them are not the same thing. Preparation is earned through mindset, training, and consistency. Audit your dependencies. Are you largely dependent on your mindset or your gear? What is your preferred loadout? I'll give you a second to think about it. Now ask yourself, if the gear failed, could I still perform? Does the gear rely on my skills or the other way around? Can I adapt when my preferred setup isn't available? Comment below the answers to these questions and let's talk about it, because what's in your everyday loadout is what's going to save your life. Prepare for imperfect conditions. The world is an imperfect place, and that's where the test begins, when conditions stopped being ideal. Stress, chaos, unexpected situations. That's the definition of a defensive situation. Because it's going to be immediate stress. Everything's going to be chaotic and you didn't expect the situation, so you have to act in a moment's notice. We don't get to choose when bad things happen. We get to choose how prepared we are when they do. Real readiness survives the chaos. The bottom line is this: at the end of the day, the only gear you can rely on starts with your mindset. The rest is part of your supporting cast. Some are major players and some are the extras that you barely notice. Make sure that you can survive without the extras and put your training and skills behind the major players. Remember to keep it simple. Mindset, discipline, consistency, preparation. The people who perform best under pressure usually build capability long before the moment arrives. Gear doesn't save you. Decisions do. This has been the Readiness Report. Stay safe, stay prepared, and stay empowered.